Fiebich, member of the Wichita Radio Control Club in Wichita, Kansas, and the videotape you just saw illustrates one of the activities that I enjoy that are associated with aviation, and that, of course, is doing touch and goes off the sod field on a lazy August afternoon using the old and slow Cessna 172. Well, perhaps some of you also enjoy that kind of activity and enjoy full-scale flying as well as model aviation, and we have a wide range of interest in this hobby. Well, I'd like to share with you one of those other areas of the hobby that I think you putting the camera on the wing, we can reorient it to shoot towards the back, shoot down the wing, shoot forward, or straight ahead. Any of these aerial photography. Depending on the type of photography I was trying to do, I use various accessory items, anywhere from a mirror that fit inside the cockpit to a mirror that would fit outside the cockpit to one that would fit directly on the camera, and another system here that was used for my remotely controlled mechanical system. Well, you also have to be concerned with the servo.
The Kodak Fun Saver only weighs about 3 ounces. It has the counter mechanism, the line on the back, and this is the servo mechanism. And you can see I've modified it somewhat from the initial pictures. The cutout has been changed, and I've used a nylon wiper. Attaching the servo mechanism to the camera, it looks like this, and rubber bands will hold it in place. Once the camera is installed in the airplane, I use double-sided tape on the floorboard to stick the camera in position. The rotary motion of the servo translates into linear motion on this wiper arm, which then will wipe across the shutter, snapping the picture. You notice there is quite a distance between the camera and the windows. This turned out to be somewhat of a problem later on, as you'll see. Here we are looking at from the outside of the plane, and I'm using the panoramic lens.
I think you can see what it is here. Now the problem is that the camera is too wide to fit crossways in the airplane, and yet still give me a straight viewing line right through the windshield. Well, since we already use smoke in our airplanes for aerobatics, why not use mirrors? So now we've got a situation of smoke and mirrors. So if I put the camera in the airplane at an angle and position the mirror against the other sidewall, I now can take a photograph by focusing and looking into the mirror and reflecting right out through the front of the aircraft. Use this setup to illustrate what I meant by the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. And let's just use this clay for a method of mounting the mirror. And I'll use these two dowels to represent the line of sight. Just so we are using a good angle here, I'll set it up at 60 degrees. And it doesn't really make any difference what the angle is, as long as the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. And we'll put this one in here. Then we'll position the camera so we can view that, and now we'll take a look.
Take a look at what we've just set up in this illustration, and now we can see by looking at what was the angle of reflection, looking back towards the mirror, we can then see the camera lined up right along with the angle of incidence. And this makes it possible for us to take those reflected shots, as well as it gives us a way to aim the camera.
And you'll notice that I have a plug so that I can remove the camera without upsetting the electronics of the plane. And you might want to hook this up to your own system, because then you have a little more freedom of connecting and disconnecting when you don't want to have the camera as part of the cargo of the aircraft.
With the mirror in place on the inside of the cockpit, and it's positioned at an angle which allows the camera to reflect the image out through the front of the cockpit. This will give us that forward-looking view we were trying to get. And now looking at it from the front end of the airplane, we can see both the reflected image in the mirror and the camera. And if we come in a little bit closer, we can see that a little bit better. And next shot. This close-up of the mirror bracket and assembly shows the overhanging lip, which clips on the top rail, the two pieces of servo tape, which attach to the external portion of the airplane, and two screws with wing nuts or pop rivets. Either one works well. Once the bracket is attached to the aircraft, you can see that it does not hinder any view through the window, and the camera can shoot through an entire opening. The glass is still in place. Let's back up just a bit, and you'll notice that there is a symmetrically opposite mirror on the other side of the plane. No, this is not so we can take pictures out the other side. It's from a second mirror enhancement. This involves attaching the mirror directly to the camera, and what I've done is formed a piece of sheet metal at a 45-degree angle, attach the mirror to it with double-sided tape, and then attach the bracket directly to the camera, either using double-sided servo tape or the rubber bands. And you'll see as I move this around, it's possible to change the camera reflection angle and get the shots in a variety of directions. Using the same servo and bracket assembly as I did in the past, I've mounted it on this camera, and now we'll be putting this in the aircraft. And the arrangement that I have here is that the mirror and the bracket stick through the window. You see I've made a cutout in the window, and part of the glass is sticking up over the top of the frame. Results of this have yet to be completed. Mounting skis on the airplane gave me virtually an unlimited low-friction runway, which helped me get this plane off the ground. My initial attempts at flying were from the snow in the dead of winter in Minnesota. This is the light ply bracket that I used to mount the camera in. You'll notice that there are wing nuts which hold this bracket to a sheet metal bracket, and I'm using a standard cable release from a 35mm camera as a means of transmitting the energy from the servo up to the shutter mechanism. All the hardware you see is standard issue hardware from your basement or garage. This shot shows how the camera is in position, and you can see that there is a helper spring to help with the shutter, since there is a tremendous amount of effort necessary to make that shutter work. The camera is held to the bracket with a couple of rubber bands, and that makes it easy to get it on and off, and as well as a light, convenient system of attaching it. But here you can see the servo arm attached to the throttle servo pushes on the cable release and pushes the cable right up to the shutter release mechanism. This overall shot gives us an idea of the arrangement that I have, and yes, indeed, it does present quite a frontal area for resistance, and it did affect the performance of the airplane. 80 degrees off the center line. We're shooting forward, and we're going to catch part of the wing. And a close-up picture shows a sheet metal bracket that the light ply bracket was mounted to, and this bracket is held in place with the wing mounting screws. The camera is high above the wing. As we look closer, we can see the cable release, which feeds down into the body of the plane and attaches to the servo for triggering this shutter. What we'll see next was the